bookshelf. Some people have asked, and there's this bookshelf, and if I turn the camera just a little bit, you can see another bookshelf over here. And then there's one on the other side of the room as well. So I have 3 bookcases that all contain some Japanese stuff. My desk also has some Japanese material on it as well. So there's just a lot all over my house, a lot of material all over the house. There's also, I have a shelf of DVDs as well, all in Japanese. And so it's quite a large undertaking to do a walkthrough like this with the collection that I have. So this video is going to be broken up into several parts. The first part, I'm hoping to just do this, these top shelves and maybe get into some of the reference material down here before I get into my native material. I think this is more what everyone's interested in, so I'm going to spend a lot of time here, so this video might be a little bit longer. I'm going to try and keep it around 10-15 minutes, but it's a pretty ambitious goal considering what I have. So I'll just start over here in this cubby, and if you'll remember right, my old videos, I had a really tall bookshelf that housed all of this material. It got broken in a move, and so I am down to this little cubby system, which I think is kind of nice. And in the first one we have a guide to learning Hiragana and Katakana. Sorry about the light's a little bit obnoxious, but this is the very first Hiragana and Katakana book I picked up when I was like 14, so that was, you know, quite a few years ago. And it was really neat because it gave you the stroke order, and it gave you some places to practice, and it kind of tried to teach you how to say it. And after you progressed a little ways, it had some words for you to try and write out. And so this was really kind of an interesting thing when you're just starting. It's nice to have this kind of practice. As you can see, I didn't write in the book anywhere because at the time I was saving all of my material in case I wanted to share it with friends or something. I didn't want to have the blanks filled in, so I would write it in on different paper so that I could share the book with my friends. And then a couple years ago, when I was at university finishing my undergraduate program, my school had a book sale, and I picked up these 2 books, which I think are kind of an older version of the one I just showed you, but by a different author. And these books are really nice because they focus just on the Hiragana or the Katakana, and they're a little bit different. You can see that they don't have the nice boxes, and the pages, the setups are a little bit different. So it's kind of nice to just have some variety to use, especially if you're gonna send it off to students, which I do, because I do some private tutoring. As you can see, there's just some really nice spaces to practice, but there's no boxes. The little silver book had boxes to keep you kind of, you know, so that you're not getting it all over the place and your pages are staying small. Next, I have an A I U E O no Hon, which is basically an alphabet book. It's really cool. I'll just show you a couple pages out of it. So there's like A for Ampa, I for Iye, U for Unagi. I don't know, and it just keeps going on like that, and it's kind of a fun book. It's a little dated. It was published in 1977, so it's kind of old, but you know, it's maybe not, the pictures aren't as interesting as some other books out there, but I like it. I think it's kind of a unique book. I'm glad I picked it up. It was a quarter at the book sale. Japanese in 10 minutes. I bought this with the intention of using it back before I could write in Japanese characters in kana, and it was really great because it had all of these lessons that were in Romanji. And as a general rule, I dislike Romanji because I think that it's just a severe handicap for people who are trying to learn the actual language. But it has these really great cards, and again, I didn't ever tear anything out or write in my books. And then I went to college and became a English major, and it changed my entire outlook on what I could and couldn't do with books. And a lot of this not writing in books comes from everything that you're taught in elementary school, how you're never supposed to write in a book. You know, it's the cardinal sin back then. And so I wouldn't write in my books, so I don't have any of the exercises filled out because they were all on old notebook paper. But I didn't use this book like I should have. But it's neat if you're looking just to learn some quick verbal Japanese to use, like you're going to go overseas for a couple of days and you aren't planning a serious study of the Japanese language. This might be a really neat book to pick up before you leave because it teaches you some of the phrases that you need to know for like ordering food and stuff like that. So it's a neat book. It's probably one I'm not ever going to use as a teacher or probably ever for any reason. But when I was 14, this is what I could get, so it's what I got. Let's see what else we have. We have a pencil board, and these are kind of cool. It's got the stroke order for the Hiragana, Katakana, and this is something if I were working in a public school, I would probably photocopy this and hand it out to my kids because I think the stroke order is really nice, so that's why I keep that. I have the Genki series. I have Genki Volume 1 and the workbook. I've already talked about Genki, so I'm not going to plug it too much, but I think it's one of the more fabulous series out there. I do have the new edition of Volume 2 and the old edition of Volume 2. This is because during my second semester, second semester, right after midterms, I lost this book, and so I had to go buy this book so I could finish out this semester. There's not a whole lot of difference between the two. Some of the language has changed, so you know how we don't use cassette tapes or videotapes anymore. That's updated to CD and DVD in this book. And that's really one of the only major differences I noticed. This book, the second edition of Genki, does have a couple of things in it that are kind of cool that the first one doesn't have. If I can find it, I'll share it with you. It's got culture notes, and I know that the first series has culture notes as well. Let me see what I don't think that there was much of a difference in the culture notes. Yeah, so you'll see here it's got useful expressions, which is the same, but then the page next to it is different. And so that's something they did add to the second edition, was culture notes. It's up to you which one you want to use. They cover the same material. I was never lost. There was a couple of different terminologies in the workbook. There was a couple different questions from the rest of my teammates, but the grammar points were the same, so it didn't matter that the question was different because I could answer it correctly. Yokoso. This is an introductory book. Welcome to Contemporary Japanese. And I didn't use this book as a student, so I'm not terribly familiar with it, but what I can tell you about this book and why I don't like it and why I don't use it as a teacher is there's just an awful lot of romanji everywhere in the book. And it continues that way all the way through the book until a certain point where it stops, but it continues with the English translations all the way through, and I think at some point you have to give up those things if you want to really make progress, because you have to be able to translate the material yourself and you have to be able to read the material yourself. And so as a general rule, not a terrible big fan of the Yokoso series. Here's some older stuff, we're getting to some really, really old stuff. this is Japanese Today, and this is so incredibly old. You'll just see, like, take a look at it. It's just beaten up and worn, and it's falling apart. It's like been taped back together because whoever owned it really loved it and wrote in it a lot. And this is another one of those books that I got out of the book sale at the school, and I purchased it because it was a quarter, and I thought maybe I could use something out of it, but it's so old and it's falling apart and it's just in such terrible shape that I kind of hesitate to use it. And whoever owned it really cared and wrote all over the darn thing. But I keep hoping maybe eventually one day there'll be a reading in here that I think is interesting enough to take to my students and have them do. So I hang on to it. I also have Yan-san, which was really popular in the 1980s. This is its volume 2. There's 3 volumes of it. Again, book fair. This is really good if you have the old TV show, but they redid it, and now it's called Nihongo Dekimasu, and it's with Erin, and it's much better, but it's the same kind of idea as to take a TV show with grammar and stuff that a foreigner would be learning while watching TV and apply it to a textbook and learn through kind of an immersion format. This is cute, but you're gonna have a really hard time finding it because it's just out of print and it's super old, and if you watch the videos, they're really old. So there's better material now. Try looking at Nihongo Dekimasu. It's really cute. I really like it. Okay, I have a beef with this one, and this is Japanese as spoken language. This is part 1, and this was the go-to book for a long time for Japanese at the collegiate level. And this book is older than I am, and I'm gonna be 30. So I'm not terribly fond of what they did with it, and what they used a different system of romanization than most of us are used to. So when they translated some of the characters over, Tsu, TSU, became ZU, and the system that they used, it's a legitimate system and it's been used for a long time, but I don't like it. And so you'll see here, there's very little actual Japanese in the textbook. There's a lot of broken down into Romanji, the words and stuff, and that's because this is really focusing on the spoken portion of Japanese. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, this is not the way to learn Japanese. Now, that being said, the good points for this book is they teach you where to put your stinking particles. And everyone I know who did this book, and then this teacher left, and they joined my class the next year, they did not struggle with their particles. So I can't completely knock on this book because it does have some good points, but I would not recommend this book for anybody. No, wouldn't do it. If you have good luck with it and you learn from it, I would love to hear from you, the points that you think were really great about it, because I know I have a bias against it. But I just, there's too many things in here that I just don't care for. And maybe I should sit down and give it a more unbiased look, but I hate it so much. Then here's the written language that my teacher used along with the spoken language, and this really focuses on your kanji and your hiragana and your katakana and getting you to do the writing. But again, with this, we have a lot of English, romanization down here, and this is page 80. This should be gone by now. We shouldn't be dealing with this anymore at this point, because in here you should be writing already in Japanese. And so one thing that's really nice about this book that I would use it for is it's got these great little sections, trying to find one for you, where you can translate the kanji and really work on it. And so that's kind of nice, and I might use that in the classroom for a kanji quiz or something like that. But for the most part, not a terrible big fan of that. And then I have these two little books. This is Bunpo ga yowai anata e, which this is basically making your grammar, taking your grammar from being weak to strong. And this is for Shokyu kara Chukyu e no shirizu. So this is a series to help you move into the intermediate level. And it's not joking, it's actually kind of a difficult text if you have not completed at least second year, first semester, I wouldn't attempt this book at all. It is a little complicated. You'll see some notes and some highlighting. By the time I got this, I was writing in my textbooks. It's kind of handy for review. For those of you that are looking for a good review of the beginner material, this is a really good review series. And I would recommend it for that. It does have listening comprehension and reading series as well, but I got the grammar because I have a lot of other material to cover reading and listening. Then JLPT, this is the old N4, this is not the new N4, so this book is quite old, but I figured it's going to be nice to study out of, and I have been working out of it, and so I go back every couple of months and I'll do it, and then I'll erase the answers and I'll refill them in. And so, like, at one point I went through and I circled all the answers so that I couldn't select the one that I kept circling, so you could see the circle outline. So that's kind of fun, and it does come with the CD for the listening portion. At the end, it has some listening stuff, so that's kind of nice. Shadowing is great. This series is fabulous because it has these sections, so I'll just open up Unit 1 for you, and the CD will read them, and then you're supposed to say them with the same intonation and inflection, and it's supposed to help you be more automatic with your speaking. So if somebody says to you, oishii, you can be like, oishii, and you can just reply right away. And so that's kind of a cool way to do it. I've not been able to dedicate to this the way I wish I could, but what I have done of it is fabulous. I've not even touched this book yet, so just been working out of this one. I'm making a mess and I'm losing it. Let's see. I also have this 12-month reader, Moons, Months, and Seasons, and this is a pre-intermediate book, so you should know a lot of the grammar points, you should know a lot of the vocabulary, and it will teach you some new vocabulary. I really like it because, let's just do February, because February is my birth month, and so it will have this text for you to read, and the vocabulary over here that you may not know. It looks like a lot, but a lot of it's like samui. You should know samui. If you come to this text, you should already know what that word is. You should know what tokuni is, yume de, yuki. So a lot of this stuff you should already know. And then it goes through and it tells you about all the major festivals that happen in Japan. And it gives you at the very end a translation of what you read so you can check yourself. So that's kind of handy. And so I really like this series, and I would probably use this in a classroom if I had students at that level, but I don't think I will ever be teaching at that level. There, you should probably have a native teacher by that point, not be using me anymore. Next, we're getting into the intermediate stuff, and this video is already at 20 minutes, so I might cut it here and do an intermediate book walkthrough, just so that you're not sitting here for 2 hours waiting for me to finish my walkthrough. So I'll see you in the next video.